Hello everyone, today we're going to continue with our Brawler setup. In part 3 we're going to have interactive environment pieces and we're going to slightly modify our behavior. Before we get started, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the absolutely amazing support. So here we are back in our scene, and as usual I've removed the other characters, so I only have one because we'll be making a couple of adjustments, and obviously I do want to be sure that all of the characters have these changes, so we'll just duplicate the base one afterwards. So first things first, we need to make a couple of changes, and the first thing is something I actually forgot about last time. So when we go to our call conditions, we actually have a restart action here, and this needs to be removed. I apologize for leaving that there. So let's remove that first, because we are calling these conditions with a restart constantly. If we leave this restart here, it basically can never get out and never go to this state. So yeah, apologies for leaving that there. If you had any issues with that, please remove this. Second thing I'd like to mention is in the description I've included a patch for the ragdoll system, avoiding any ragdoll issues you might have on Collision. This patch was created by the game creator himself. At some point it will be in an update as well, but I wanted to include it in advance just so you have it and you won't have any ragdoll issues anymore. Perfect. So the next thing is we are going to modify the behavior a bit, and I want to explain why. So, let's say we have multiple characters here, and when they follow each other, when they follow the player, they basically get in the way of each other quite a bit. As you can see, they all get stacked up, and well, of course now it goes pretty well. And as you can see, they can hit each other as well, which is another thing we'll fix together with the behavior. So first things first, when we go to our Brawler folder, there we go, we have all of these prefabs, and what we're going to do is we're going to select them all and we're going to select duplicate, and then we have these versions. Now these are the versions we'll be using for our NPCs. So I'm going to select NPC here. There we go. Maybe let's add a little perfect. And one more. There we go. Now the reason for this is we need to make sure that they can't actually hit each other as well, so damaging each other. And it's actually pretty simple, but yeah, we obviously do need to set that up as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that all of our characters are set to a new layer, and we're going to add one. Let's call it enemy. Pretty simple. And we'll select them all, and we're going to select them to enemy. And yes, change children, and there we go. So now they have the tag and the layer. Then on the actual NPC Brawler, was it Brawler? Yeah, there we go. We're going to drag in the exact same ones, but then with the NPC behind it. So LF, there we go. We have LH, RF, and RH, and there we go. Now we're going to open these up, and layer mask, we're going to deselect enemy. We're going to do the same here, deselect enemy. And deselect enemy. So basically layer mask decides what we can actually hit. So for example, if you don't want to be able to hit walls or NPCs, for example, you can do it this way as well. And this is basically our way to ensure they can't hit each other. So perfect. let's go into play mode again. I'll just keep blocking and I'll try to make them get in each other's way. Come on, start hitting. Well, as you can see, they can no longer hit each other, and it's, you know, it's basically, it's, you know, their colliders are not getting in the way of each other. That's kind of the thing, so they can no longer hit each other. Doesn't matter if, you know, they're next to each other or anything like that. Now, another thing I personally just didn't really like that much, it was actually this type of behavior. You know, them struggling, especially if there's some objects in the game world. You know, they're basically all going to be grouped together at some point. So you can have 20 enemies in the scene, and at some point they'll all literally walk next to each other like this. And right now I only have 3. It's not that much. But yeah, the more you have, the more, you know, it will all basically become this little group clutched on top of each other. So I played a bit of Arkham Asylum again to actually get a reference, and I realized one big thing that my behavior just doesn't have. It's pretty simply the fact that their behavior doesn't follow you all the time. They actually do not at all. They just stand still pretty much, and only one at a time actually goes towards the player and no one else. Because I was curious to see how their behavior would react, how they made sure that everyone's, you know, didn't basically group together like this, and that's pretty much how they do it. Maybe it's a, you know, reason for avoidance, but their behavior just functions differently. Now, luckily for us, we only need to make a really small amount of change in order to make this work. So that's really, really good. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to select this task we have. So, you know, based on the distance, if they're not attacking, they're going to go to the player. Now we're going to add one thing. So this can run. We're going to copy this, we're going to place this here, put it up, select, turn it on, and basically they can run, which is one difference. Reason for that is it shouldn't take them too long once they are going to be attacking the player to actually go towards the player. Otherwise you just have too much time to prepare. Another thing I noticed Arkham Asylum does as well. So they walk all the time unless they actually attack the player, and then that's when they're well, they basically start running. Then another thing is target, no, game object, there we go. Oh. And basically what we're doing is we're making sure that the moment they become the target, so target compared to invoker, they run towards the player. So that's one thing that doesn't really change. So the moment they're the target, they start attacking the player. But this time, even if they're at the distance, they will run towards the player and start attacking the player. So it's a lot more interesting already. So that's going to remain the same. Now we do need to make sure that you know, you can't just go and kill them all in a heartbeat, basically, just for fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this one. I'm going to drag it here. There we go. And we're going to drag this one here. Let's press sort so we regroup them basically. And we're going to add some conditions. Now this condition is, yeah, it's going to be the same. Again, the same. And we're going to add one additional action here. Perfect. So we're going to copy that can run, and we can actually remove it here. We don't need it here. So we're going to add this so he can't run while doing this, and he's also going to be moving towards the player. However, one big difference here is we're going to literally select the maximum distance. Now the reason for this is that we do, you know, 5 meters is quite a lot. We don't want them to literally remain on the other side of the map. So, you know, they do need to follow the player to some degree, but hardly, you know, and in a boxed environment, they won't really move all that much at all, really. But the important thing is that they do follow the player to some degree, but they only really go towards the player at a close distance if they are the new targets and they're not attacking. And let me show you how this actually plays out. This, you know, like I said, these are really small differences, but they actually do really change the, you know, the combat quite a bit. So I'm going to place them here. Place him behind the player, and there we go. Now we still have that blocking in here, which is you know, partially fun because, you know, they can do the counter attack as well, but it makes them a bit less aggressive, and you know, that's up to you if you want to have that. So the moment I kill one, basically the other one comes and, you know, he becomes the new target focus. And that's actually literally how Batman Arkham Asylum does it. Now I think one difference though is that in Arkham Asylum they are going to be a lot more attacking, and it's up to you if you want to keep that blocking in there as well, because as you can see, you know, it can revert to the blocking quite often, you know, which can basically be annoying. Obviously if you get too close to one, he'll start attack as well, but you know, as you can see, we have less of a group mentality where they all just you know, follow along. It's the closest will become the new attacker, but everyone else just stays a bit at a distance. So it's a small change, but it makes it behave a lot more like it does in Arkham Asylum. Now there is one thing you might want to consider. I tried it with and without, so let me actually remove this. So the moment one of them becomes the target, they're going to go into attacking mode pretty much straight away. And I personally thought that was a bit more fun. You know, myself actually, I thought it was a bit more entertaining to have them be a bit more attacking. So what you can do is basically make the change. Oh, sorry about that. Basically make the change that they're not using. You know, they're not using this. We can have this move a tiny bit closer, so about one, let's say one, and have these, you know, start blocking, being after combos, for example. So have it in this chain, you know, afterwards. So add a little block moment. So for example, wait 0.5, start blocking. Maybe make it a tiny bit shorter, and then do a stop blocking. You know, leave a slightly smaller opening, like 1 second, and that's it. So, you know, in my opinion, it makes it a tiny bit more entertaining doing it like this as well, because it's a little bit less predictable. So obviously the first target, you know, will be a lot more attacking. Then he will have his opening, he'll block, and the moment we take him out, which, you know, might take a while, but for one, he's a lot more attacking. So there's you know, a bit less openings than there was before. He can counter a bit better as well, and okay, well, that's one for the ragdoll. And as you can see, you know, only one at a time will really attack unless we get too close to the other. And you know, we have one right now that's you know, is going to be really attacking and really approaching us, and yeah, it's a bit more fun. Anyway, that's it for behavior, like I said, small change, makes it a lot more like Arkham Asylum. If you really want it to be completely like Arkham Asylum, keep in mind that in Arkham Asylum the areas are actually really small, and this part of the behavior, oh, sorry about that, this part of the behavior when it comes to, so yeah, this could be removed. That's up to you if you want to remove that, yes or no. This part of the behavior is not something Arkham Asylum uses, just to be clear. They don't seem to move at all, unless I'm wrong and I just was in the wrong areas. But the areas are a bit smaller, so there's not large open spaces, and the enemies just seem to pretty much stay in place until they were the target and actually went for you. So yeah, something to keep in mind. So if you're going for smaller spaces as well, you could remove this and make it a lot more like that. If you have slightly bigger spaces, yeah, I would suggest, you know, still having this in here or something like that. Anyway, next part, I'm going to, we know this works with the multiple characters, going to remove them all, and we're going to go with our interaction environment. Now, I have this little box, and I've included this in the in the description as well. And in the description, you will have the broken box, the solid box, and the interaction. So the interaction box is basically an empty parent with a collider. There we go. We have our solid box, and I know it sounds sounds a bit weird, but a solid box is literally just a full cube. And we have the broken box, and the broken box is basically again an empty parent with the same, you know, middle part, and we have that big cube broken up into smaller pieces with rigid bodies. So let me for now just turn off the character and just show you. So if we turn on broken box from the start, this is what we have. So we have a box that, you know, once you go into it, it falls apart. Now that's obviously not something you want to happen by default. We want this to be an interaction that the moment we start some, you know, combo chain, it becomes the other part in pieces, which you can't see unless you hit them. And before that, it stays a solid, so that, you know, when you walk against it, absolutely nothing happens, and that's it. Now the moment you know, we do want something to happen, basically what happens is simply this. So this turns off, this turns on, and, you know, we have a box in pieces. So yeah, and obviously that happens at exactly the same time, so you don't actually notice it. Perfect. So that's the next thing we're going to be setting up, and it's going to be pretty simple. Basically, what we're going to add is a trigger, UI trigger. What am I doing? Game creator trigger. There we go. So we're going to remove the sphere collider. We're going to change this to tag enter. And, you know, it tells you, hey, we need a new collider for this, and we're going to use a box collider. There we go. Now this will be set to the default 0 value, so that, you know, it's actually doing it well, and we're going to remove this for it to be actually, yeah, here. Now what we'll do is we'll have, once we've completely set this one up, I'm going to move this to the top here. Once this is completely set up, we are actually going to have this trigger on each side, so it doesn't only trigger from one side, it will trigger from each side. So, you know, pretty plain and simple. So we're going to create some actions here. We're going to have another trigger here as well, and that's tag exit. Perfect. And those will have the exit actions. So let's do enemy, and yeah, you know, that's pretty much it. Obviously, a really long long set of actions will follow, but that's okay. So we'll give this a name as well. So call condition actions. So as you might have guessed, we'll have call conditions here, and this needs to happen on a restart. There we go. Then the next part is going to be a simple one. So this is exit actions. So if the tag leaves the area, and here we're going to cancel actions immediately, and that's these call conditions, because otherwise they'll, you know, infinitely keep playing. We don't want that. It needs to stop straight away after. Now there will be a bit more, because one of the things we need to add to our enemy character, and we can turn him on again, is going to be a new bool. So this bool is going to be called interactive. I know, not terribly original, but that's okay. There we go. And interactive is something we're going to turn on in these conditions here. And before I forget, I know myself, we're going to be adding, turning those off once he exits. So yeah, it's a small thing, and it will make more sense in a bit, but I just want to make sure I don't forget, like I forgot that restart actions in the last video. So there we go. So pretty plain and simple, but that's the first step for our interaction box. Now there's several ways we could actually have this, you know, this hitbox interaction work. And the way I want to approach it, and you know, you obviously, oh, let's turn this to trigger first. You obviously don't have to, but I'm going to do it with the hit reactions. So basically, if the NPC is in this box and just blocking, you know, there's nothing we can do. Yes, you could have a grab button that automatically executes it. I think that's a bit too easy, and that's just my opinion. I actually had that before, and it is just a bit too easy. So I'm going to have it trigger if the NPC is actually in this box and we find an opening, we're able to hit him, and then the interaction starts. So yeah, anyway, let's set that up. So what we need for that is a couple of other things as well. So we have a couple of hit reactions, and I only, you know, for both the NPC and the player, and I only want these to trigger if we hit him from the front. Now realistically, that's pretty much the only time this will trigger, just to be absolutely clear. So what we're going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, and duplicate this, and we'll rename it to NPC as well, just like the other ones. Let's select the thing and make it slightly bit easier. Oh, that's the wrong one. And for this one as well. There we go. So our defense NPC, or no, just a default brawler NPC here, hit reaction, we're going to change this to the NPC version. And yeah, this is the easiest way to do it. Now, behind, I don't want it to trigger if it's from behind, and just in case I'm including the airborne. I don't know how much the NPC actually has to be in the air for the airborne to trigger, but you know, just in case. And there we go. So now we need to set up these actions, and that's the reason why we needed to duplicate them, because otherwise the actions carry over to both. So what we're going to do, variable bool, local, invoker, interactive, let's make sure I actually spell this right. Interactive. There we go. Going to do a weight of 0.1, and we're going to turn it off. So having that turn off on the exit actions is just as, you know, a fail-safe type of thing, just to make sure. Most of the time it won't be needed, but it doesn't hurt to have some fail-safes to make it more reliable. Now that's also the reason why we, by the way, we duplicate this way. If you would have just done Control D, for example, these actions would have been on both of them. So that's why you really need to duplicate with the built-in function, and not just, you know, pressing Control D. 0.1, copy, turn it off, and then for this one as well, weight 0.1, copy, and there we go. So it will always do this, so no matter the hit reaction, but if we're not in a trigger area, nothing will happen. It will just turn on this bool on the enemy, and you know, that's it. Nothing else will happen. So that's the first step, and now what we need to do is actually set up our actions and conditions, obviously. So let's create these game creator conditions, and I'll keep them separate, you know, just in case. So let's call them interactive conditions. There we go. And yes, we're going to check a couple of things. So first off, bool of the invoker. So if the invoker is set to interactive, if that's true, and another one, melee, where is attacking, so if the invoker is not attacking. So if he straight away goes into attack, I don't want to disturb that and interrupt that, so it needs to be during that hit reaction. So then we're going to, well, basically turn that bool off straight away. So bool interactive, and this is fine. We can turn it off straight away because we're starting the interactions, and I want to make sure that, you know, that this is turned off. Then we're going to do a property, player is controllable, is going to be turned off. Then we're going to change our camera motor as well, and we still need to set that up. Actually, that's something I forgot, but yeah, we'll do that. So we're going to do something else first. So focus target, so player release, invoker release. And the reasons I'm releasing this is because placement is going to be key here. It's going to be incredibly important where we place these characters, because you know, it sounds great having it completely fluid, dynamic, and the position doesn't matter, but unless you can completely retarget the animations to go back to its intent, it's not going to work. We're also going to stop the behavior of the enemy, which is the invoker, and we're going to do a transform. And yes, this is the important part. So we're going to do a transform here. So both of them are getting a new parent. So that will be the trigger, by the way, just to be clear. And we're going to be changing that position, and this will be local, and we'll need to experiment a bit. I can't remember the values. I'm going to do, I don't know, -2. Let's try 2 first. I'm going to duplicate this one and invoker, and we're going to set this to -1. Now the reason for this is because all of the, and we've done this with the counter attack as well, is all of those animations basically trigger based on, you know, they perfectly match each other based on the distance between the, you know, the two characters, and there needs to be a distance of 1 in between them, so that's why we're targeting like this. And the enemy needs to rotate 180 degrees as well, otherwise he's facing his back towards the player. So let's do local. So yeah, let me explain what we're basically doing here. So we need to make sure that once we play these melee clips, which we still need to create, I'm fully aware, they also need to be perfectly placed in front of the box, and they need to be perfectly placed at the right distance from each other. And again, I'll have to check if this is, right distance. As long as there's one in between, that's the most important part. And um, the reason we're also going to do a change camera, so I'll already include the action. So camera, change camera, there we go. Still need to create that camera motor. And that's quite simply because we need to hide instantly, we need to hide the fact that they are moving position. And this is not like some really incredibly cheap trick that no one does just because we can't do it better. Even games like the new God of War, The Last of Us actually does this to hide certain non-realistic movements. So yeah, it's not that cheap of a trick, but it is still a trick. Perfect. Then we're going to give them time for the placement, and I know that's not ideal, that's not perfect, but otherwise it just doesn't work. We're going to do input melee for both the player, and we'll pick, I don't know, I for interactive. And we're going to do that for the invoker as well. Then we're going to wait, I don't know, let's say 2 seconds for them to play. Might need to go back and change the length. And then change the camera motor back again to the original. Now we don't need to have the other one set up, we just need to change it to the main motor, and let's make sure this is a main camera motor. There we go, it wasn't. Perfect. Because at some point we do need to change back. We also need to make sure that basically this and this gets enabled, disabled. So let's do a enable. No, not components. Active. Sorry, it was active. Set active. Solid box. So that goes to inactive, and this goes to active. So we can do that straight away here, actually. If you want it done perfectly and make sure that nothing could interact, you'll need to time it perfectly. We can do that in a bit as well. So basically, during this melee attack, we'll switch the actives so that the enemy actually goes through this object. So yeah. Was there something else? So this has a box collider. I don't think this actually needs a box collider. No, I'll remove it. I don't know why I had this. Basically, we only need this box collider here. Yeah, perfect. So I'll make sure this original one wasn't actually on the prefab. I'll export for you. Let's go back to our interactive conditions. So we're going to switch box states here so we can actually go through it, and then we're going to basically, let's copy this over, clear parents, no change position, and we're going to do that for both. So they will clear their parent. This can have a camera motor change of like 0.5 just to smooth it in. So we're good there. And then we need to start his behavior again of the invoker. We're going to make the player controllable again as well, because obviously otherwise we can't play after this. And I think for now that's it. I know it's already quite a long list, but we still need to set up these actual animations, so let's do that first. So we'll be using our counter clips here. Yeah, I think that those are the right ones. Yeah, and with these two. So perfect block counter, and yeah, I think these were the ones. So let's duplicate these and duplicate these. I'm going to rename them to interactive player 01, and we'll rename this one to interactive NPC 01. And the reason I'm adding the 01 is, you know, if you want to have more clips, then you do more clips. So yeah, this is already quite a lot. I'm fully aware of that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to we're basically going to make sure that these transitions are the same, 0.05. Okay, that's fine. Let's pick, well, I'm going to pick this one. So hit grapple 3. That's my custom one. Let's grab the original ones, because someone left a comment that's actually perfect, so you don't need UMotion Pro in order to edit these. So let's do grapple. So grapple F3, which is this one. Looks really cool, and basically you kick the NPC in the box, and that's the most important part. Now by default we have this, and someone actually posted this in the comments, which is awesome. If we select this to none and we hit apply, then basically we have all of these values exposed. Yeah, this, I can't believe I didn't know that before. Anyway, so let's turn it on. Let's turn it on. Let's turn it on. And then we'll do the same with 3. So apply, yes, yes, yes. So none, apply, and let's turn it on. Let's turn it on, and let's turn it on. Apply. Perfect. So yeah, grapple 3, hits grapple 3, perfect. So we have our animations. So let's get back to our combo. Where was it? I'm lost. Brawler. There we go. So let's go to interactive player. So we're going to get grapple 3, and we'll use the original one from the Frank fighting set. We'll do extract root motion, and for the NPC we're going to grab the original Frank one as well, this one, and we'll also do extract root motion. Now the truly important part here is that we basically go back to these, and we turn off root motion on this axis, and we do it on this one. There we go. So yeah, these need to be turned off because the melee module clip is going to grab this movement anyway, but if we leave it on these clips, we'll basically have double movement, so it will just look horrible. Perfect. So that's it. I can collapse this folder for now. And yeah, ideally we'd need a death animation as well. We can trick that into, you know, doing something else, so we'll play around with it a bit. So let's go back to our brawler, and we'll need to go back to our clips. And the clips are actually going to be incredibly simple. So this will assign the death state, so that once we actually trigger these clips and restart the behavior, he'll still be dead. Now as you can see, there's loads of stuff here which we simply just don't need. So I'm going to remove this, I'm going to remove this, we're going to remove this. I'm going to yeah, we can keep this in here, I guess. So yeah, if you want to create another death clip, let's try to do that actually really quick without using UMotion. I'll try. Let's see if this works. So where was it? Grapple, hits. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this one. I'll try to create a death clip out of it. I'm not sure this is going to work because I've had some mixed experiences with doing it this way, but yeah, let's see. Okay, so technically this should be our death clip. Now we're going to turn on center of mass here. We're going to bake that in, and we're going to loop this and hit apply. So okay, let's hope this works. I'm not really sure, but let's hope this works. So let's go back to our NPC animation, NPC clip. So Brawler, interaction NPC. We can turn this off. So I'm going to set this to 3 seconds instead. This is slightly longer, and then we're going to yeah, let's remove this as well. We don't need that. We'll keep this in here, so that's good. And yeah, let's give this a try. So I'm going to lock this one real quick. Let's go back to our grapple, and we're going to drag in our newly created death one. I hope it works this way. I just found it more reliable to use UMotion Pro, but let's hope this works as well, and so we don't have to do that. Cool. So that's it for the NPC. When it comes to the player, there's actually not that much more. Let's go back. Now we can truly collapse this one. Brawler, player. We can unlock this one. And as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff here. I'm going to turn all of that off. And I'm going to set this to 2 seconds as well, and that's it. So yeah, that's it. Now both of them are already uninterruptible, and you know, all of that stuff. So we're good there. So yeah, let's try these ones out. Now we do need to obviously add them to our weapons. So for the player, let's change all of these, and we'll turn it to the eye for interactive we had. There we go. So this is the player weapon. And this is the NPC one. There we go. So they're both now added, so we can actually assign these. Well, we already assigned them, so we're good there as well. So now what we're still missing before we can actually give this a go is changing the camera motor. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to literally duplicate this one. Here I can just press Ctrl D. And I'm going to rename this to interactive. There we go. And yeah, target the player, but this time, you know, the initial pitch is going to be 0. I don't know. We'll need to mess around with it a bit. 1.5. I'll turn all of these things off. And where's the zoom? Initial zoom. Okay. So that needs to be quite a bit closer. I'm not sure this is going to be the perfect setting, but we'll try it out and we'll see what happens. There we go. So it needs to be a bit closer because we, you know, like I said, we kind of need to hide, you know, a couple of things here. So I'm even going to do it a bit higher because we mostly need to hide their initial lower part of their feet. So That's why it's a bit close, it's a bit high, but let's see. And I think we have everything to, well, let's drag in those conditions, of course. I think we have everything in here pretty much. So yeah, let's give this a go. I think we have everything right now. Not sure, but let's give this a go, and we'll see if it works. Now, it's obviously you know, it's not, you're not supposed to do it like this, but yeah, there we go. So he's in the box right now, I think. So yeah, he's attacking us. Okay, so as you can see, small mistake when it comes to the placement. I don't know what I did here in terms of rotation, but that's really interesting. And not in a good way interesting, that looks horrible. So let's have a look here. So for now, I'm just going to place the character in the box straight away, just so we can actually test all of this out. When it comes to the actions, and okay, so that doesn't work. I can't play it like this. So that's a bad idea. So let's do this again. Okay, then he's out of the box now. So I'm going to push him back in, basically. Okay, so what's wrong here? As you can see, we're on the wrong axis for one. I mean, we're completely on the wrong axis. So this is where the trigger zone is, as you can see, and we were supposed to be here, and we're here. Oh, sorry. So when setting that interactive parent, as you can see, if the you know, the box would have been, and I'm doing this in play mode, so I won't change anything. If the box would have been here, this would have been fine. So I'm just going to, and I know the player rotation is wrong as well, I'm aware. So we need to change the player rotation, and we need to change the axis. But you know, the interaction is fine. The death animation works as well, by the way, so that's pretty cool. Maybe we shouldn't set the death animation to loop. That's not necessary. So perfect. So we've got that part. Now we just need to make sure we actually align it on the right axis. So that's this one. So not the X, and -1. Okay, let's try it like this. So we're going to give this another go. I'll leave him in there just so we don't have to wait for him to actually get in the box. Okay, well that's wrong. So local, I don't know, 90, -90. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here when it comes to the rotations, but let's see. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So now this is working well, and it went so fast I didn't actually really check the camera, so apologies for that. Let me do that first. Okay, so the camera hides the feet, so that's actually pretty good. We could have the enemy a bit closer, and as you can see, the box turning into pieces shouldn't happen straight away. It's a bit too soon for that to actually happen, so we'll have to change that as well. So let's change this to minus 0.5 and minus 1.5. There we go. Perfect. And the next thing we need to do is, well, let's have a look at those animations for one. So let's go to set. We're pretty much there already. Just a small thing to grapple. How long is this animation? It's 3.5 seconds. And so the moment we're kicking is when the box should become active, and that's after 2 seconds. So that's fine, we can move that. So okay, so we're good there. Then the next thing we need to do is on the death. Let's turn off that loop, because apparently that lag jitters. Oh yeah, okay, that lag jitters. So let's turn off the loop, we don't need the loop anyway. I mean, it's not going to loop, so we will have this once and then it will stop. Perfect. So let's go back to our interactive conditions, and we can literally just drag this here. I know, pretty simple. Okay, so we're triggering this, plays perfectly, and yeah. Now, as you can see, he's not really going that far, so that's going to be part of the problem. So the 2 seconds is too long, actually. So let's try 1 second and, you know, divide those seconds for the camera change. So you need to find that sweet spot where the collider is not going to mess with his root motion movement. Which basically still seems to be the start of the animation. Okay, that's a bit disappointing. So I guess I was wrong, and we still need to do it that way. Perfect. So we can just go back to the original state. So yeah, that's actually pretty much it. Now obviously, you know, it's not ideal having that trigger just you know, just on this side. So you will need to basically duplicate the triggers and to the other sides as well. Have them in the same interaction box, and then when it comes to the local movements, so the local placement when parenting, yes, you will need to change those accordingly. So that's the only, you know, small additional manual work. Yes, this will only trigger if they are in these areas, but you know, when you have a nice interactive scene, multiple objects, you don't want this to be an instant kill cheat code every single time. Also, these cinematic pieces are really cool, but you know, in a game, it's also annoying if it happens every 2 seconds as well. So that's why they're, you know, interactive environmental pieces that will trigger, you know, only when you manually hit them, when you actually achieve to hit them, in an area that is an interactive area. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Now there is one problem with this, and I will highlight that problem right here. So let me, oh, okay. I'm going to cheat a bit. I don't want to take my time for him to get into that trigger zone. But I do want to highlight this this problem straight away. So as you can see, I could actually continue hitting and it would never play, which is incredibly annoying. So as you are, you know, you're full aware, when we have a look at our actions, so where is it? Trigger interactive conditions. When we have a look at our actions, we are turning off player is controllable, yet we're still able to do this. And yeah, that's kind of annoying. Now the only way I've I've tried everything, and it pretty much seems that there's only two different ways to approach this. Either you have a separate non-combo melee input button that is literally meant for situations like this, like a quick knock or something like that, so that you can't combo further, because that's a problem. Player is controllable, so he should no longer be controllable, but it does not actually stop the combos from continuing. If you spam that key button, it will still continue despite this. So I haven't found another solution. So either you do that, so have it only trigger on one key input, or I've actually asked for a slightly different method, which is going to be a custom action that allows you to temporarily disable combos and re-enable them. So let me show you what I mean. The moment that action is live on the Game Creator Hub, I will link towards it in the description, so keep that in mind. But once we go to Brawler and we go to our weapon, you will see is enabled here. And what this custom action will do is it will basically toggle this off, and yeah, that's it. So what we're going to do is at the start, first thing we will be doing is toggle that off, and then at the end toggle those back on, because we need to make sure they go back on as well. And that's going to be my fix, which will basically stop what I just showed from happening. I think it's a lot more fun if you can use your normal combos in order to do this, but unfortunately it is controllable, just doesn't update fast enough or something like that for the combos. So the first thing we'll be doing is turn off those combos. Yeah, we'll turn off those combos the moment these actions start. That way you can no longer combo. So no, that's not a solution for right now, but the moment it's done, I will update the description and add the Game Creator Hub action to the description. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.